Hey everyone, Ashley May, Mike Beer here, taking a look at the Grade 3 Daytona this Saturday out at Santa Anita Park. It's 6.5 furlongs on the downhill. And mentioned it's a Grade 3 event, $100,000 is the purse. And field of 8 entered here, Mike, as we look at this group with some bigger names in here, including Motorious, who we know the success that he's had in recent years, and even other horses. Air Force Red has back class, Goliad, Stay Hot. I mean, it's a pretty good group top to bottom.
Really good field. I do think that Motorious is probably the horse to beat in here. He's been a top class turf sprinter in California for a couple of years now. I mean, he's the horse to beat in here, but he's hardly a cinch in this race. Actually, there are good horses in here.
And we will take a look at the time form pace projection for this turf sprint. You can see it says favors front runners, and there's no doubt about it. Goliad has one move. And that has been sort of his MO from day one. He goes to the front. He's likely going to be the pace setter in here. And I think the big thing is he could get a length or two length lead in here.
He's a really fast horse. I'd be surprised if they weren't just going to try to go to the front and wire this field. He's got some, at least in my opinion, he's got some class questions to answer. But I guess he's a pretty dangerous horse on the lead.
You can see the LP flag is attached to the number 5 in here. Stay Hot is going to make his first start now as a 4-year-old. We'll jump right into it here with the number 1 Air Force Red, and we'll take a look at that most recent performance. Now, it is a short field. I don't typically like to show the 4-horse races, but it's an important race in the Siren Lure, knowing that Lovesick Blues is the winner, Bran's the runner-up, and Air Force Red was third. And kind of look at the way that the race was run. There wasn't a ton of movement in here, Mike.
Yeah, exactly right. The 1-2 finishers just went to the lead together. Air Force Red tried to make that 3-wide move on the turn. He just couldn't get to these horses. And just holds his ground to the way. I thought he ran fine in there, Ashley. I really liked his win 2 starts back in the San Anita. I thought he ran great in that race down the hill. And then his prior down the hill start was in December when he was behind Motorious. But you can go back and pull the replay of that race. This horse got totally skunked in the stretch of that race and didn't get to run. I really like him as a turf sprinter. I know they've spent most of his career trying to make him a miler. I like him as a sprinter.
The 2 in here, Bran, we saw was the pace setter last time out, was second. I actually just don't think that's his running style, though. I think it was the compact field. I feel like Mikey's more effective closing from off of it, whether that's mid-pack, depending on the field size or the distance, or I don't know, he could be closer in here. I don't think he's a leading type. He just, it's what we've seen time and time again from him. He doesn't necessarily want the lead.
Yeah, I can agree with that for sure. And, I don't blame Rispoli, though, for going to the lead last time. It was, one of those, it wasn't downhill. It was a straightaway 6 furlong there. It was a short field. He took his shot and tried to wire that field, and it didn't quite work out. But he ran fine in there, and I'm with you. I think he's better if somebody else goes and he can sort of sit and sort of make a run through the stretch.
The 3 Goliad, we mentioned he is quick, but he doesn't necessarily love the downhill as we've seen in those 2 efforts. He's 0 for 2 off the board performances, but one of them was the Eddie D. Obviously, the other one was the first start off a layoff. I don't necessarily want to hold that against him, but he's been a miler since then, Mike, and strictly a miler. But some of the races that he's performed in, I do think the waters have just been deeper than this group.
I mean, yeah, all those things are true. I don't really know what to say about Goliad because, again, I do think he's dangerous with his speed in this race. But ultimately, the longer I looked at him, I just had to keep asking myself, how good is this horse? Like, is he actually any good? He won 2 races at Kentucky Downs last year, sort of really impressively. His other races do absolutely nothing for me.
We'll move to the number 4, Daniel's Magic, who I guess in contrast from last year, Mike, has a race going into this. His layoff, though, is longer. Probably needed that race last year. He went fresh into this. He was 7th in that 9-horse event. And I just have reservations about him at this level based on what we've seen against stakes caliber.
So far, he hasn't really classed up. Just one of the harder horses I thought to make a case for in here. Real chance he's the longest shot on the board in this race, Ashley. We'll see how he does.
The 5, Stay Hot, making the 4-year-old debut for Peter Urton, a horse that loves it on this turf course at Santa Anita, and obviously has been in some tougher spots, grade 2 events, grade 1s. But I think the big thing is, as of late, he's been going longer distances, typically a mile and an eighth being sort of his forte, but he's faced very nice horses in there. And you go back to his lone try, 6.5 on the downhill, he did win, Mike.
Yeah, he won a stakes race off of a little bit of a layoff. This is a much longer layoff that he's coming back off of. So we'll see if he's just prepping here or if they really think he's a sprinter. Actually, this is his most recent start here where he's going to wind up just being. So he's got a real shot to win this match, this mile race here. And he's just not good enough. He can't get up, but he runs fine in here. I'm a big fan of his. I wonder if he's really in here. I wonder if he's just not in here really to get a prep in to stretch out again.
You mentioned, he wasn't good enough to win. I do think it flatters him that the winner, King of Gosford, most recently in his most recent outing at the end of May, got a 100, Beyer speed figure in the Shoemaker Mile. So we're going to move to the number 6 in here, Lovesick Blues, who we mentioned was able to win that shortened field in the Siren Lure. And a horse that obviously to watch over the years has been very consistent, shows up. Whether this horse wins all the time, though, that's the big question mark, because you do see that most recent win with the short field, but you have to go pretty far down the page to 2023 to find the other wins.
Yeah, exactly. He's a pretty cool horse, but he sort of took advantage last time when he won that 6 furlong race, just sitting on top of a pretty slow pace and getting the job done. I don't know. I just thought he was kind of hard to like in here, although he should be a pretty good price in this race.
The 7, Motorious, I think it's simple, horse to beat based on the resume that we've seen to date, was the runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint and then ended his campaign last year as a 6-year-old, those several days after Christmas, and was able to win again as the heavy favorite in a Grade 2 event. He needs pace help, but it's a turf sprint on the downhill, a surface that he's run very well over.
He really has. It's funny, too, because they spent most of his career going a little bit shorter than this, but when they do go downhill with him, he handles it just fine. He's really good over this this configuration. His last win, it's that Hernandez we were talking about where Air Force Red just had a brutal trip, but this horse actually ran really, really well in there. Man, he's just the horse to beat. There's not that much to say.
And he mentioned horses that maybe are using this as a launching point in the form of Stay Hot. I think that might be the case with the 8 here, Watsonville, for Mark Goliad, who hasn't been able to fire in those last several and only saw this one twice last year as a 4-year-old back to the sidelines. And now they're going to cut him back in distance, this is going to be the first time that we've seen that since 2023 and the beginnings of his career.
It'll be interesting to see what he can do if they can keep him on the track this year, because it did seem like he was really getting better at the end of his 3-year-old campaign, and he just never really got to get going last year. There's a chance he turns out to be okay.
Field of 8 expected for the Grade 3 Daytona. We will move to our top picks here in this event, and I'm not going to get clever. Motorious is the horse to beat. I mean, there's no doubt about it based on what we've seen, but you go with the 1, Air Force Red, who, when we talked about it, I mean, this is a horse that he shows up a lot and he does have a ton of back class. He'll need to take a little bit of a step forward, but he does have that race, Mike.
Yeah, I recognize Motorious as the horse to beat for sure, but I think Air Force Red's pretty good, and I want them to concentrate on sprinting with this horse this year. I think he's a pretty good sprinter.
1752 for Mike, 7523 for me. It's race 10 of 12 this Saturday out at Santa Anita. Good luck.